in a world of uncertainty.
Rivers jizzing in his pants, and then you bring up your wife in the next sentence. Like, I know where we're going. What is going on?
There is only one place you can turn for fair dinkum advice.
1 word, unbelievable. 2 words, holy shit. 3 words, oh my god.
A place where the undeniably American
It sounds so weird in like an Australian accent.
meets the undeniably Aussie.
Hey, let's stop the foreskinning for some absolutely wonderful segments later.
Where the analysis is solid
I, for one, was not one of those haters, as I picked a Rams victory.
Look, I think he can get over 150 yards in this game, easily.
Kick his ass, Taylor Bass!
and everything else is out to kill you.
There's going to be shrinking nutsacks all over the place.
Welcome to the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
G'day, and welcome to the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. You know me, my name's Matty C, host of the show, host extraordinaire, to be honest. Look, before we kick off our show, I do this every single time, and hence my new office here. It's pretty spacious. I'd like to pay our respect to the traditional landowners of the lands from which we're all dialing in from tonight. It's something that if you've been with the show for a while now, that we're on episode 25, you'd be familiar with. But if not, and you are dialing in, especially if you're from across the seas in other places, you might not be familiar with this tradition. But Australia being colonised means that there were people who were already living here, and we like to pay our respect to the folks who had the land and respect the folks who traditionally own it and the native title to the land. So where Manjot and I are dialing in from is traditionally Ngunnawal and Ngambri country, today called Canberra, and we'd like to show our respect to the elders and the leaders who are past, present and emerging from the Ngunnawal and the Ngambri people. But then also for Taylor, he's dialing in from an area called Dharawal, these days called Wollongong, and we'd also like to extend that same respect to the elders and to the leaders there, past, present and emerging, show our respect for the folks who traditionally held the land. It's a tradition that we do here now in Australia, which I think is hugely important. And I think no matter where you live, whether you're on this great vast continent or you are from across the seas, it'd probably be a cool thing to find out who are the traditional landowners of where you are and learn a little bit about them. Now, before I go any further too, I'm going to hit our social media, because I'll tell you, our social media is becoming a thing. You can find all of our links through the link tree. It's just go to Linktree and punch in Aussie NFL Fantasy. You can put those 4 words into Google. We'll pop straight up. But then we've also got all of the links for where you'll find us right there. We've got a YouTube, which you can catch all these shows. You can find the Instagram. You can find the TikTok, which we have a lot of fun on. You can find the Facebook and the Snapchat, all by just looking for Aussie NFL Fantasy, and you can also do it through the Linktree. Our Twitter, which is AU NFL Fantasy, and then of course our email address, AussieNFLFantasy@gmail.com, and our Anchor, where you can leave a voice message if you like, but you can also catch our podcast there, anchorfm.Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Now, I also have to tell you, we're on every podcast platform, but you probably know that if you're listening to us. But if you're with us on YouTube, you may not know that. You can find us on every podcast platform, and the links to those are also on the link tree. But more recently, the 3 of us boys have become analysts for the Fantasy Football Network, representing our very favorite NFL teams. So Manjot, the myth, the legend, through his Pastry Press NFL website, is going to be representing the 49ers, the finest 49ers analyst you can find on this whole wide brown land. Of course, Taylor, who is a Titans guy through and through. You're going to find him. He's on the Fantasy Football Network too, thanks to the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. And he's going to be providing all that you need to know from Nashville. And of course, your boy here, Matty C, is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars correspondent. So look out for that. Uniquely positioned, 20 years of being a Jags fan, 15 years of fantasy football. Nobody on this island better positioned to give you Jags tips. All right, let's get this show going. I've got the Holy Trinity sitting in the wings. Let's bring him in, and I'll change my office.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Manjot, myth, legend.
Who thinks they're going first this week, by the way? Hands up.
It's Taylor.
Oh, you're wrong. It's you, man.
Yeah, I thought so. Oh, okay. Man, that is just a load of information. Lot of dumping right there, man. Yes, you gotta go for them early and then trade them. I was feeling that sort of vibe from Taylor. Taylor nailed, I reckon. Yeah, as someone who's living the pain of the Jimmy G experience still, just trade that man, please.
I just realised he, basically had hamstrings made of tissue. That was great.
A lot like mine.
Anyway, back to Manjot.
How about me with my Peyton Manning jersey that I got for Christmas last year?
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
It's an upgrade, but he's not going to be so elite.
Well, after another cracking weekend of preseason football, and for us too, the Astros draft, there's been plenty of drama going on, and we're only a week away from proper NFL season. It's good to have the boys back too. Taylor, you're looking sharp tonight, mate. What's that in the picture behind you?
Oh, that's just some guy winning the Astro League last year. Not sure who he is, but man, he looks handsome. Chiseled jawline, kissing the Astro League trophy. What a man, what a man, what a mighty fine man.
God.
But, mate, there's a tingling in my nutsack. It's so close to the NFL starting. It's just going to be a great, great season. I cannot wait to defend my title, mate. Oh, no, I just gave it away. Jeez, it's me. I was the guy that won the Astro League. I forgot about
shit, were you?
But sorry to let the cat out of the bag, but it was me. But, mate, I cannot wait.
No
it's
idea.
gonna be fantastic.
Goodness. Wow, what a hot start. I mean, this is one of my favorite parts of the show as we get on each week, and I have no idea what your photo is going to be.
Yeah, look, you say it's a hot start. Like, I normally make it a cold start. I don't normally say something ridiculous at the start. I normally stay
That's
really
true.
composed.
Really lukewarm to kick it off and just turn up the heat as you go. You never come out of the gate barging, do you?
Yeah.
Speaking of coming out of the gate barging, Manjot.
Yeah, I never smash through a fence.
You never do. Manjot smashed through a fence this week, and we'll talk about it because he drafted the Astro League draft pretty much wingmanless. Manjot, welcome back. You survived.
Yeah, I survived somehow a 16-team draft. It was probably the most fun experience. You boys went on the Zoom, but I was absolutely carrying the Zoom. I brought all the energy. All the other guys, they're kind of quiet, except Marky Mark and Adam. They're a bit getting in there. And also, I did talk a bit to Joel and met him. I think I met Ryan. Yeah, I met Ryan as well. And then I think
one of our resident Americans.
Yeah. Was Kenny there? I think he was there a little bit.
He might have popped in at one point. Yeah, I knew he was going to have a bit of a tricky day.
Yeah, I think Jerry was there. That's what I'm thinking of.
And Jerry, and he's pretty silent, you know. He's an absorber.
It was just us two in the Zoom, and I was trying to say hello to Jerry, and the dude would not say hello back. But no hard feelings. He was just silent, no camera on. I'm just sitting there. I'm like eating my finger bun pre-draft. I'm eating that finger bun and sipping on the tea. That's how I was preparing. That was my breakfast. And I had it at 11:45 on draft day. I just got up and drafted pretty much. I was probably doing some mocks before that, and then just forgot breakfast, like always.
Wow.
Yeah.
Remember, it's only really a 15-team league because Ryan doesn't make the playoffs every second year, so we can rule out one team straight away.
Yeah. He's the only one we can rule out now too, because even Jackal's broken through and made a playoff berth. So we used to be able to write him off, and now we can't even do that.
Mate, is it once in every 14 seasons he make it? Let's see.
Yeah, that's it. It's like Haley's comment, mate. He's not coming back around for 75 years. He should rename his team. Fellas, I'm so charged up that we're back because the weekend was pretty wild, and we'll get into a recap of what happened with the draft as well, which I'm pretty pumped about because for the first time in a very long time, I didn't spend my whole day obsessing about it and being all a part of it. But it was weird for me. But I'm looking forward to catching up what happened with you guys on draft day too. But we've got a bit to get through today too, because we're starting the regular season shows from next week. And we haven't really introduced the people to a bit of a structure of what we're going to do. And there's going to be some things that are pretty familiar from the old Astro League days. But because we didn't have Mr. Manjot through the Astro League days, and he brings some stuff, we've had to sort of, shoehorn in some content here and rejig things a bit. So I thought maybe what we could do to kick it off is just have a little look for, the wonderful viewers out there at what our show will kind of look like kicking off from next week, if you guys are happy to sort of help me describe what we're going to do segment by segment.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Well, Manjot's pretty pumped up out of the gate, and you should be, because you've been really already sort of Instagram famous for the Pastry Press NFL website. And man, we're making some room for having a pastry performer as an NFL segment on the show every week. Do you want to talk us through what to expect on that, brother?
Yeah, so planning to put in the pastry performer segment. Still finalizing a few details with Pastry Press NFL representatives to see if the trademarks, the copyrights. Oh wait, shit. That dude who runs Pastry Press is me. So all the trademarks, all the copyrights have gone through all the legal teams across both pages because I run both legal teams. So I completely own all the copyrights. I'm giving it all to Aussie NFL Fantasy because we want Pastry Performer to have its own life as a podcast sort of segment. So I'm gonna give this I'm thinking so offensive, defensive, rookie, for both conferences. I'd say maybe one rookie overall, but there'll definitely be a rookie Pastry Performer of the Week, AFC and NFC offensive and defensive Pastry Performers of the Week. There's going to be a Pastry Performer of the Week, and then there's going to be a fantasy Pastry Performer of the Week. So I'm still finalizing, but definitely we'll put up that Pastry Performer graphic on the Wednesday, probably when we're recording. So it'll be up before we record just so I can get it out. I think I'm going to beat the NFL by a few hours, them naming their players of the week. I think Pastry Performer is going to come out first by about 6 hours or something. I'm going to try and
gotta love that Australian time zone, don't you? You just gotta love that we're up at the crack of dawn.
Wednesday afternoon. I think I'll post it up around midday. Just put up the Pastry Performers of the week, and then maybe save the fantasy one for the fantasy show or something. We'll sort it out, but there'll definitely be a Pastry Performer announcement on the podcast every week. I can't wait. Next week's show, I'm probably going to do a Pastry Performer of the training camp / preseason. So just one because absolutely no one likes
and
preseason.
we need a Pastry Performer, man. If we're going to start the segments, we need one. So I'm glad you're kind of, working out a way to just get the black magic to happen to give us one.
We got to get the rights out there. All the legal teams, they got to come together. That's just
our crack legal mind.
The crack legal mind for both Aussie NFL Fantasy and Pastry Press NFL. So, look, I've got all the rights. They're all my copyrights and everything. So I'm very happily going to give some of them to Aussie NFL Fantasy. Love collabs coming. If you guys want to know what's on Pastry Press NFL 2, content schedule came out yesterday. So this is a content schedule pod 2, where we're going to be talking like content schedule for our podcast.
100%. And so that's pretty exciting stuff. And I think the next thing that people have become really, I think people flocked to the show for it really was our Taylor Talk segments where Taylor was doing a bit of predicting, and we've reworked it a little bit and we've given it a bit of a new title. Taylor, would you care to explain your segment for us?
Yeah, look, I just heard the word pastry about 8 times, so I'm hungry for. And you know what else I'm hungry for, Matty C? I'm hungry to prescribe some wonderful fantasy goodness to the people out there. So Dr. Goodcall is going to pick out each week. Great, moving on. Great.
That's the segue. He's nailed it. He's stuck the landing.
Great segues from Dr. Goodcall over here. So basically, each week, I'm going to take a look at each position in fantasy. So I'm going to take a quarterback, a running back, a tight end, a wide receiver, who I think is set to have a breakout week moving forward. So I'm just going to take it week by week, take it based off matchup, take it based on what I've seen in the week before or during the season so far. I'll try and find someone that isn't obvious. I'll try and find someone that's a bit deeper, someone you might be thinking about picking up off the waivers, someone you might be thinking about in a start-sit situation, and just sort of talk through why I think they're going to have a great week this week. Just basically trying to, prescribe a great start-sit situation for people.
Yeah, beauty, mate. And I think that segment was really helpful last year. It was also a lot of fun because you were essentially like sticking your neck out and kind of betting on it. And I mean, we've been doing a segment like that pretty much since you begin.
Yeah, since I just picked Michael Pittman every single week 2 years ago.
Which worked out really well for you.
But it was like I was picking guys who were waivers in a 16-team league. So basically, they were definitely waivers in a 12 or 10-team league. And basically, every single week, even though Michael Pittman would have a decent game, even at a rookie, he would still be under like 2% something owned. It was just no one was really sort of
no one else was on him.
Yeah. So
No, it was a
I
great
like to
segment,
think
and
I started the MPJ craze.
the MPJ. I heard you mention him
Yeah.
as MPJ today, and I had to actually really think hard about who the hell MPJ is because there was
Yeah.
no other context. I'm like, it took me a while. I got there. I was
me
trying to
and
cross
Mark
a busy
Downey-
road at the time, which was not advisable.
I thought he was talking about Michael Porter Jr. for a second
Yeah.
as well,
I
because
did
that's where I usually see it.
And me and MD Mark Downey,
Yes.
we were having a chat this morning. MPJ's been having B with his Matt Ryan. He wasn't shitting himself. He was actually at breakfast properly, and they were having breakfast together, sitting there having big breakfasts, having a bit of bacon and egg, bit of sausage.
Sharing a
So
bagel. Very good.
we all know what that means. So basically, lock MPJ in for a top 1 season this year.
Top one. Mate, I'm gonna be the doctor here. I'm gonna diagnose you with a head injury. I think I've been doing that
Probably not
for
wrong.
2 years now, so that's an old joke. I'm going to be prescribing you some stuff too. I don't know. You need a sedative or something. You FPJ love is starting to really climb. No, I'm glad that you've got this segment because I think as a man who doesn't mind a pun, as a father of 2 young children, you're going to really nail the idea of assuming this role of the doctor. I do like that we discovered recently too that the ice hockey championship here in Australia is called the Goodall Cup.
Yeah.
I love it.
That was great.
I wish we'd worked that out before we decide you're already going to be Dr. Good Call.
It was funny. I lost it when we went to a few Brave games when we were living in Canberra. Like, because you go, it's weird though.
Yeah.
Like, you can't drink anywhere around the rink. You have to go into that like little section just above
That
one of the
tiny
nets
little
for the
sweaty
drink.
box. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 100 people, like men drinking in there, and fucking a room that only fits 101 people. It's like you were just pressed up against the box, just drinking piss during the fucking.
You're going to make some close friends whether you want to or not. Like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to be touching
Mate,
places
every
you wish you weren't
week we're
touched.
getting closer to being an ice hockey podcast.
Yeah, every week. We'll talk more and more.
We'll start working it in there.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
need
wait
to
for Dr. Good Call to come back. Manjot, because you're young and energetic, we've actually got a second segment you can prepare for because
Let's
you're
go.
our cracked legal mind. So when players are maligned by the voice of public opinion, we need someone who can stand up and defend them in the face of all that. I don't know what the word there is. I was going to say malignment, but I'm sure that's not a word.
I think he's
All the
picking out
criticism.
NHL goalie of the week. Is that what he's doing?
Yes. Tell us about your second segment, mate. I think this is hilarious.
The word I think he was looking for is criticism because they're all going to get
Malignment.
criticized a lot. Yeah, malignment. Look, it's pretty close, But yeah, look, I'm very excited to be the public defender. Again, crack legal mind, as I was mentioning earlier. We got some rights again. I managed to get rights to the phrase public defender from, I think there's a few of those courts in New South Wales, ACT, South Australia, wherever
They've
I'm
been
learning
busy.
all these laws from in law school. I'm definitely getting those and using them right here in fantasy football. Now, I'm doing property law at the moment in university, and you
Ooh.
got to know which players you should be owning. You got to be knowing what is a bad deal, what is a good deal. You got to be knowing your entire rights, who you should drop, who you should trade, who you should mortgage, and who you should buy, because the public defender is coming back. Mate, I'm becoming a property law expert. That was
Dude, that
good
was slick as. You're almost a
That was-
salesman.
Mate, I created that in 5 seconds. I'm not even capping. I just
I've
created
always
that on
thought
the
about
fly.
doing a trade, man, Jot. I might come to you. I've always thought about it. I've never done it.
Yeah, he's never traded.
We'll talk about
No
Taylor and
reason-
trades. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no reason to call him Taylor the tradesman. No reason to have a trade segment on the podcast.
He's such a tradesman. He wears a tool belt to fantasy day.
Surely we work one in, Maddie. We work in a trade segment. Taylor's trades of the week.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
dude
last
does,
week
like-
we would have had to dedicate a whole podcast to it.
Yeah, we don't have enough
Last
time.
year, he did 38 trades or something like that. That was its own. That was its own 15-part miniseries. It's sponsored by the Australian newspaper and Hedley Thomas, I think. All right. Well, that's 3 big segments, but I think the segment that our show got really known for was our
Yeah.
Start of the Week segment.
Yeah. It's a big
There's going to
time.
be a couple of things about it this year that are similar, but a few things that'll be different because there's 3 of us now.
Oh yeah.
So last year, pretty well, it worked that Matty was really good at it for about 2 weeks, and then he was total shit at it. And then every week, whoever won, Taylor, got to go first. And then Matty pretty much had to bring a list as long as his old fella of people who could be alternates in case Taylor took the ones that he wanted. And he just couldn't beat Taylor. I think he won that like 8-4. It was just an absolute fucking shit sandwich. With 3 of us, I think that's going to diversify it a little bit, but we're going to run a snake draft on it as well. And whoever wins the week before can choose their position. And you don't have to choose, like we were going, who's your quarterback? And here's my quarterback. No. In the draft, you can pick whoever you want at any position you want. So there's a little bit more wiggle room, but it also means you might actually have to come with a few things prepared because you don't know where you're going to be picking and you don't know what position is going to go first. So there's going to be a whole bunch of mystery. I don't know about you guys, but I'm
for the
pumped
podcast
for that.
now.
You're basically going to need to bring 3 of each position.
Each
Yeah.
position, yeah.
I think that's going to be so much fun. And it will feel a little bit like, for those who've been with us since the playoff show, it'll feel a little bit like that, which was, I don't know, that was wild fun. The thing about Taylor's episode, his segment though, and I forgot to come back and just, smoke you on this, Taylor, and I feel like I should still give you the zinger, is that you're still coming back and you're still trying to predict a tight end after all this time. And he's still trying to get a week where he gets a tight end right. You poor bastard. I can't believe you signed yourself up. I thought you were just going to shun tight end this year wisely, but no, he's thrown back in the fire. He's thrown himself back in.
Every year I'm trying to pick that like 6 to 11 range, like tight end that's going to break out. It's just going to destroy his ADP. And it just, like, the funny thing is there's probably been years where I have and it just doesn't matter. It's like I pick the guy that's like ranked 11 and he gets to 8. And it's honestly, if that was a wide receiver, that would be awesome. But it's tight end, it just doesn't mean shit.
The difference between 5 points and 11 points, which is
Exactly.
okay, but it's not like the difference
Spread out
between
over
15 points and
17
26.
weeks.
Yeah.
I'm getting an extra 0.6 points a week.
Hey, Maddie, you know how your wife just came back from Britain? Did she pick up a British accent?
I was so disappointed she didn't. She was there for about a month as well.
I was just having the thought, because if we just put a British accent, someone just narrating how to get your medicines prescribed or prescribe all the fantasy goodness. Oh, shoot, that's my ringtone. Forgot to turn off my phone before the podcast, everyone. Sorry for the copyright issues, Maddie C.
What's great is we
it's
could
my
hear there was
dad
music.
calling
We
me.
couldn't hear what it was. And I assume that it's still Dre.
Yeah, it's the Monday Night Football theme. Luckily, no one
Manjot Night Football.
Shout out to my dad for calling me mid podcast.
Hey, the
Absolute
dad shot.
legend.
We love
Yeah.
the dad shot.
Absolute legend. Yeah, Papa Jot. Whatever you want to call him, he's a legend. I know he's a Storm fan, but he loves his sport. He's a 49ers fan too. So massive shout out to my dad. Shout
Big
out to my
shout
mom as
out
well.
to Dad Jot
Shout out to
and
my
Mama
sister
Jot.
playing the trumpet in the background.
Sis
And
Jot.
And my brother for giving up the room for once a week.
Bro Jot. I love
Yeah.
that. He's
Yeah,
got the
all
whole
right.
family. This
That
is great.
deviated. So I was talking about my idea where we can get a British voiceover for the Dr. Good Call. Just do a medical advert. It
Hey,
just sounds
doctor.
good. Like, yeah, just something. Maybe get Taylor to do it, because I want it to sound like the Saxonville Abbey, sort of the urinating tree Saxonville Abbey British voice. That was a great series, Saxonville Abbey. Absolutely love that. Maddie, if you haven't seen it, that's a good take on the Jacksonville 2018 season.
I will be Googling right now. That's what I'll be doing. You guys are going to carry the show now, and I'm just going to disappear and
Binge watch Saxonville Abbey.
100%.
Days
Have a good show, guys. Make sure you carry it all.
Shout out the segways. If I stood on one, I'd break it.
It's just like what animal was it you were going to break its back last year?
Oh, yeah.
Probably
Mule
kangaroo.
or something? I can't
Yeah, it
remember.
was a donkey or something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Well, we've been beating this like a rented mule to start. Let's talk about today's show.
There's the segue that I'd break.
There we go, the mule. So we're going to talk a bit about the Astros draft because it's an uncommon draft. It's the one thing we all have the most in common in fantasy world, which I think is kind of cool because it's 16 teams. It's all the way over here. but it's super engaged and it's high
Yeah.
stakes. Like we're not playing for money or some trivial bullshit. We're playing for ego. I mean, have a look at Taylor's trophy there. Have a look at it. Feast your eyes on that.
Beast.
Turn that shit sideways again, Taylor. Want it to be bigger.
What?
Yeah. Turn your
Taylor's
phone
getting his
sideways. Make that
orientation
trophy
right.
bigger. Yeah, there we go. There we
is.
go. Make
Yeah,
it.
that's the stuff.
Oh, that looks
Yeah.
even bigger, man.
For
Oh,
our audio
It
listeners.
that didn't do anything for me.
It did
Oh, it
shit
did
for
stuff
us.
for us. Yeah.
It did shit for us. It's good enough. It's good enough.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh, it was good for me. Was it good for you, man, John?
Yeah, that was good.
Gonna
Mate,
need a
I
cigarette.
can't wait to put my hands on that trophy someday. Hopefully this year.
Well, we're going to talk about Manjot steering the whole boat, which I'm really proud of him. But then we're also, in a later segment too, going to bring some really deep sleepers because this is the week of the most fantasy drafts, and we think it's probably about the most use we can be coming up to draft weekend before everyone's sort of got to live with their teams after that from that week into week one. So I'm going to drop in a drop because that's what drops do, and we'll come back and we'll kick it off with the Astros draft recap.
I drop it like it's hot.
And Manja, I am literally going to come in hot and throw you straight into it to be like, I cannot believe this guy flew the helicopter, landed it.
First ever Astros draft.
Yeah, we gotta get a freaking cheer for that or some shit. Yeah.
So I'm going to come straight to you, okay?
Yep.
It has been like Christmas, World War II, and Thanksgiving all wrapped into one. It's the Astro League draft. There is casualties, there is celebration, there is tears, and there is shared experience.
And anal bleeding.
And anal bleeding. Jesus Christ. Is that Thanksgiving at your place, mate?
It's standard.
Fuck me. Can I tell everyone how proud I am of the president of football operations for the newly renamed Western Wankers?
Let's go.
Mate, I had a bit of a calamity on Sunday and I was tied up then at a family event that was super important that I just couldn't get the access to helping out the way I sort of hoped I might. And Manjot, he took the wheel and he steered that baby and he drafted for the Western Wankers like an absolute champ. Mate, how do you feel after just being thrust into the cockpit like that?
I honestly feel really good. That was one of the best experiences I've had in my lifetime. Just getting it. I'm putting that out there. I'm putting that my entire lifetime.
Not just last week, your whole life.
My whole life. That was one of the most fun moments of my entire life.
Wow.
I'm gonna put that one out. Yeah, so it was a very interesting draft. I think we were the only team that actually stacked up running backs. I'm just looking through rosters super quickly. As you guys can tell, I did not prepare any notes as usual.
He's got the memories. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the memories, and I'm pretty sure we were the only team. I only got to check one more team, which is Adam's team. And yes, I can confirm we were the only team that started off the draft with 3 running backs in a row. It's a very controversial strategy, but I will explain where we developed this. So I was downplaying how much preparation I did for the draft to everyone but Maddie C, especially to Taylor. I wanted Taylor to think I was going in unprepared. Only did the mocks on the show, did absolutely jack shit and everything before the draft. But what I did, I sat there in my room every day, did 4 mocks a day, every day until the draft. Pretty much I did about 24-ish mocks before the draft. That entire week was just mocks on mocks on mocks. Me and Maddie scheduled commentary practice on Saturday afternoon. We didn't even fucking practice. We were practicing something else. We were practicing mock drafts. Very sorry to Miles. Very sorry to Chris and the rest of the ACT Gridiron community. We did not practice our commentary because we were practicing for our mock draft. Because that was a little bit more urgent.
One of them's only a live stream to the whole world. The other is an Astro League draft to 15 other people. I know which one's more important. The 15 other people.
Yeah, those 15 other people better than those hundreds that are going to be watching us, Maddie. 100%.
Yeah.
Look, I was very, very excited. I was developing strategies all week So my first sort of strategy, there was a couple. So I was going to go RB and wide receiver, just try and get six. That first 6 rounds,
Yeah.
obviously 3 running back, 3 wide receiver, my stock standard sort of strategy. But then it just didn't realize. I just didn't think I got the quarterback and tight end in in those mocks quickly enough. So I had to develop a strategy where I would have to get good running back depth and then a good a couple wide receivers, and then get a good quarterback and tight end. So then there was another strategy I was thinking of where I just get a good wide receiver at the top, pretty much Jamar Chase, because he was always dropping to 9. So Jamar Chase, and then I get probably a few running backs, and then get my second wide receiver, and then I go for tight end or QB. But then ultimately, I developed my full-on strategy. So 3 running backs off the top. And pretty much in mocks, it was always Mixon and Javonte in the first 2, and then ETN in the 3rd round. And it almost went to schedule. Dalvin actually dropped to us. So I 100% went with Dalvin Cook. He was the first pick for us at pick 9. Very stoked. I was so happy. If you could hear me on the Zoom. Maddie, you might have to delve back in the Zoom and play this for everyone.
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
was so happy.
I'm going to wedge it in right here.
Yeah. Yeah, wedge it in, mate. Because wedge it in like Dalvin wedged into our team, because fuck, that was a great pick. I absolutely enjoyed taking Dalvin. I was celebrating. I know it did mess up a little bit of the later part of my draft, but that's okay because we'll get onto it later. Then second off, I got Javonte, as I always do. Javonte always my 2nd round pick in the 16 team mocks. He had to go to me here. And Javonte was just a perfect player, I reckon, in this spot. And then the 3rd pick, I got ETN. So I pretty much nailed the first 3 picks, as I always expected. Now the 4th round pick, it was always Brandon Cooks. Like, Brandon Cooks was always going to be in mocks. He was always going. I can see Taylor grinning there because he took fucking Brandon Cooks with the first pick of the 4th round.
Yeah.
So he
He went early.
He went in all in early. So we had the 8th pick of the even rounds. So we had to wait quite a bit. And then we had to go for a wide receiver 1. And just to get back at Taylor, there was a lot of swearing at Taylor in our chat. There's a lot of fucking Taylors after that. Mainly for me. I'll be honest. The amount of fuck yous I said to Taylor.
You had some solidarity, though.
Mate, I absolutely hated it when you took Brandon Cooks, Taylor. I have to put that out there. I know this is a lot of, foreskinning before. Look, my mom's not in the room, so I'm allowed to.
He's allowed to say foreskin when mom's not around.
My mom's in the upper room today, so it's all good. I'm in my own room today. Yeah, look, a lot of foreskinning for his discussion on Brandon Cooks later, but I was 100% certain that you're gonna take Elijah Moore with the first pick of the 4th round. I even said it to everyone. I was like, 100%. I know what not Elijah Moore, because I think Elijah Moore replaced Taylor for a few weeks. But I was like, I 100% know what Taylor's 4th round pick is. I wasn't going to say Elijah Moore because I did want Taylor to take him in the 4th round because I know how much you love him. But yeah, he took Brandon Cooks, and we'll talk about that later. But we took Elijah Moore just to get back at him. And in the 5th round, this is where the elite draft strategy came in. So I worked out in the 5th and 6th round, I couldn't have. So in the 5th round, there was this sort of dead zone. Same with the 4th round of running backs. And then like there's some good wide receivers there in both rounds. So I just had to take my time and think of which ones to take. So my strategy was in the 6th round, I was hoping Dawson Knox would fall to us or something. So, and in the 6th round, there was another wide receiver I really loved, Brandon Ayuk. But I had to choose between them. So what I did was I was going to reach for Ayuk in the 5th and then go for Dawson Knox in the 6th round. So I got Ayuk in the 5th round. On draft day, everything changed. As you know, human element comes in. I was drafting against bots pretty much to protect the strategy. But human element came in and Dak Prescott actually dropped to the 6th round. And we just swooped in and took him. we waited on tight end until I think the 12th or 11th round. We just waited for tight end after that.
We've been
But we
sitting, yeah.
swooped in and took Dak. 100% was a great pick, I reckon. And then I just can't even remember who we took after that because I just thought we were done after that. I thought we had a great draft, to be
Yeah, I think
honest.
from there we couldn't do too much to really ruin.
Yeah. Yeah, 7th round. Now this one, it was out of necessity. We had to take Alexander Madison,
Yeah.
handcuff, put those handcuffs on. Public defender will come in later on to defend you. That's what we mean by handcuffs.
Yeah.
And then we took Taylor's boy, Traylon Burks, in the 8th round over George Pickens too. Very controversial.
Yeah, we
But-
ummed and ahed.
Yeah,
Ooh,
George Pickens was the pick there in the 8th round.
it's what we'd practiced, yeah. And he was there,
100%.
and then we went away from it on draft day. Ooh.
Yeah, and I think Brian Robinson, he was in the 7th or 8th rounds. We're gonna pick him. Unfortunate situation with him.
Yeah.
Prayers out to him. He's a massive guy I've loved this whole off season. Really love his work. I was talking about last podcast, sorry, as him being a good sleeper pick. And it's very sad to see the situation that happened with him in that armed robbery. And I'm really hoping he's okay. I'm glad he's alive, non-life-threatening injuries. You know, we've seen that before with Sean Taylor can end very badly. So, you know, just want to send some thoughts out to Brian Robinson, a player I absolutely love in fantasy and in real life. And just as a person as well, I know he's a good person. So I'm glad he's doing well. Glad he's been discharged from the hospital. But yeah, he was a draft target of ours as well. Unfortunately, I think it was Marky Mark who took him. Or I think he did.
Yeah, he's big on his young guys. He always does this. He's well researched on his young guys, and he ends up with a team full of good young prospects like that.
And we actually had, we stacked off after Burks. We got Sky Moore, and then in the 10th round, that's where we got our tight end Gerald Everett from the Chargers. So it's a very interesting. Again, we armed and ahed. We were going between him and like Henry and whoever. I just took Everett just out of impulse, to be honest. I just wasn't. Like
at that stage, there weren't a heap of terrific options because it was like Everett or Njoku or the options weren't terrific. But that was the risk we took when we decided we couldn't get the guy we wanted when Knox was gone, and we went, we'll wait.
Yeah,
we'll wait, and we kept waiting, and it got to the point where it couldn't get worse. So we just took the best of the worst group.
And then to finish it off, we got Jamal Williams, who could be a good handcuff for DeAndre Swift. We could get some good carry time as well. I reckon Jamal Williams was a very good late round pick I was targeting in all those mocks as well. I just think there's a lot of potential with him, and if Swift does go down with an injury, he's a good trade piece for us, considering we have a ton of running backs. Or you can just have him for ourselves and just start him as a flex play.
Did you say if Swift goes down with an injury, or did you say when?
If.
Because I was just looking back at history of Swift and injuries.
Yeah.
And I could set my watch to it.
Yeah. And then in the 12th round, I didn't say this live. I feel so bad, but I got to say it now. McPherson smacks that ass on in the 12th round. And then the Packers defense to finish it off in the 13th. We got some great picks. I reckon I'm going to come out there hot. I'm going to be honest. Here's my hot take.
Come on.
As a rookie drafter, I came in and I think I actually won the draft. I'm going to put that out there. I think I actually won the draft. I think that strategy was perfectly played to execution. I don't know about the others if they strategized as much as I did, but I perfectly executed my entire strategy as I just outlined in the previous 5 to 10 minutes I was just talking. But
nailed it.
Yeah, I'm going to come out hot and say that I won the draft. Fantasy Pros, they actually ran a few sims, and I think it was Ryan that came out first, and then we came second. But we had the way more consistent team. We had second best starters and the third best bench, and absolutely stoked with what I did in the first ever Astro League draft of mine. And I think Maddie is pretty stoked too. I think we won the draft. I'm going to put that out there. The whole league can kill me. Call me a young 20-year-old, very cocky, very brash. sort of arrogant 20-year-old, but I'm going to come out there and say we won the draft. It's
We
not
did.
a league winner because we got to still do waiver wires, obviously.
Oh, this
Obviously.
is only the beginning, brother. Yeah,
Yeah, waiver wires and
we're
trades.
not done yet.
That's where it comes in. But yeah, I think I'm going to go out there and say we won the draft. We had the best draft in terms of overall. So consistency between starters and bench. I think we just had great depth and everything. We have a ton of young gems. I'm
All
really
upside back
excited.
there.
A lot of just underrated talent. That's just what I'm gonna say. I'm just really excited. You can tell I've actually lost all the nervousness that I've had. I'm actually speaking a lot more confidently today after that. So yeah, this could be
Yeah.
a good season for us, Maddie. What were your thoughts on our draft, Maddie, before we
Mate,
throw it over to Taylor?
This is a very proud moment. I've got to live this moment a few times because we've got children who've learnt to ride bikes. And when you watch Manjot Wobbly get off on doing a few mock drafts, and then he turns up on race day and he rides that sucker like nothing else, it was a proud moment. And that's me playing like fantasy father there. Really, in honesty, it's like having a little brother who you help ride his bike, to be honest. So Manjot, no, we're more brothers. But look, I think, Taylor, you'd agree with me. Could you name a 20-year-old who had a better 16-team half PPR debut draft than Manjot?
Well, how old's Justin Bieber?
45. He and Tom Brady.
Well, then no.
Thank you. There you go, Manjot. Taylor's
Let's
with
go.
me. We actually agree on two things. We both love Brandon Cooks, and we both think you drafted extremely well. I think, though, Taylor might say that he won the draft. I'm not sure. Taylor, do you think you drafted all right, mate?
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear his
I'm
grade.
on our team, yeah.
Because I think this is the other thing. Manjot really prepared more than I think anyone knew, and he really worked hard on it, and then he delivered really well on the plan. But nobody has done more mock draft and preparation than Taylor. And
Yeah.
And
I
that
did the
was
Malcolm
probably,
Butler. I
that
did the
was gonna
Malcolm
be
Butler
my
Patriots
first thing
thing.
I said.
yeah, I'm really ready to hear how Taylor went
Yeah.
on his own lofty standards.
Yeah, when Manjot was saying at the end there, I don't know if anyone prepared as much as him. I don't know if he realised he
I
was.
think he was like, I did
Yeah,
44
yeah.
mock drafts. Taylor did that in
no.
the hour before the draft started.
Wait up. I did not say that. Pause. I did not say that I prepared more than anyone else. I said I prepared more than anyone thought I prepared. I was doing the Malcolm Butler Patriots defense for Super Bowl 49 sort of preparation where they were practicing that one pick play, and then Malcolm Butler in the actual Super Bowl comes in and gets that intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. That commentary line. That's how it felt. So that's what I was talking about. I wasn't saying I prepared more than Taylor, because Taylor does 1,000 mocks a day.
Yeah.
100%. No one
There's
prepares
no intercepting Taylor at the goal line. He is beast mode right through. There's none of this. Let's just use a play. It's like just turn around and hand it a fucking beast mode, and beast mode over here. He beast moded his draft up to a certain point, I think. All right, Taylor, you didn't say that Manjot was more prepared than everybody else. We can agree that, Taylor is the
I will
most
be
prepared.
defending myself here.
And I love watching when you're really prepared because, I mean, we saw you come up on the clock, and because we spend a lot of time together and we talk a lot about fantasy, there's not a lot of surprises when any of us are on the clock that we take generally. And I don't think you were too surprised about a lot of our picks. But I'm super interested to hear your thoughts on your own draft, mate.
For anyone that's listened to me, I don't think any of my picks were surprising at all. And what was funny was, like, I'll take you through my draft day experience. So I went down to a club and I basically had two drafts at once. So our draft started at 12, and I had a draft for a 12-team league that I've been in for a few years, starting at 12:30. So I basically had my laptop open for our draft, and then I had my phone ready, which will become relevant as we get to the later rounds. Luckily, it didn't sort of rear its ugly head until then. But basically, I had talked to you guys how I had a pretty set plan I'd worked out by doing a lot of mocks. And I was similar to Manjot, where I definitely wanted to take running back early. I was very, very happy with who got to me, because DeAndre Swift is a guy that I've talked about to the cows come home, basically, and a lot of mocks he wouldn't get to me. And there was other guys. I was looking at Jones, Fournette, even Saquon, honestly, sort of started to come into his calculations as well. But I was pretty set in that. And obviously Kamara, he went a pick before me. He would have been someone I looked at too. But I was really, really keen on that sort of, area of running back. And I had a good feeling that two of them would get to me. And when I was able to get Swift and Jones, I was absolutely stoked at that. What I'll actually say is, so I picked from the turn in both leagues that I was doing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I actually really enjoyed it. And I sort of had a plan in both to go running back early and sort of play the wide receiver game later, because I really, really like the value there on the wide receiver this year. And I just felt like when it got to my pick, I never really felt rattled. Like I'll get to a certain situation and I'll even mention it in my other league. There was only one decision that I actually took about a minute on, and it was actually about a certain player in both leagues, the same guy. And I actually took him in the other league and not ours. But I was really, really keen to go those two running backs there. And then I really had a plan to then go to that third and fourth round turn and take wide receiver. I really, really like the wide receivers around that range. I said to you guys, if Cortland Sutton got to me, there was no chance he was getting past me.
Yep. You always said that.
I'm so keen on him. For whatever reason, NFL.com had him like 10 spots down.
Yeah.
From when it was like, I'm glad that was that case, because I think it just sort of threw, like, someone might have taken him if it was actually at his right ADP.
It guaranteed him for you.
It was so weird where they'd actually had him. So
hey, Bonza, mate, Bonza.
I took him there, and then I was a little surprised that you guys thought I was taking Elijah Moore, because when we did our last 16-team mock, I actually said to you guys I didn't think I would, because I just felt like it was a little bit too much of a reach. And I almost got – the only thing that was a little bit frustrating was DJ Moore. Again, Brendox took him right in front of me.
Yeah.
I would have gone Sutton, DJ Moore for sure. So that was the only thing that threw me a tiny bit was – all right, who's my second receiver here? Because I just went, I went and searched down for Sutton as soon as I could, got him, and then, like you guys said, Cooks was a tiny bit of a reach as well, but I just liked him again, NFL.com rankings were just so different to what I'd seen in other platforms. I expected to see Cooks near the top, and he was about 5 or 6 down, and I just thought that was who I wanted anyway. So. Outside of because Deontay Johnson and stuff were there, I think, and I've talked up how much I didn't really want to take him. So
pass.
Anti-Steelers podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Anti-Steelers.
Steelers.
Exactly. And then I got my 2 wide receivers, and honestly, it's the most even I've come out of the first 4 rounds in a draft before. Like, often I've sort of almost been on tilt being in the middle of drafts or sort of around that pick like last year, where I've almost felt compelled to sort of go away from my own strategy and take like a high-end, receiver early or something like that. Whereas I was really happy with the build of my team there. And I said to you guys that my 2 targets as my flex were Chase Edmonds and Kareem Hunt. And Chase Edmonds went about 3 picks before me to Ryan.
Yeah.
And I was rattled a bit. I'm like, oh, no, because I had to start searching if someone had taken Kareem Hunt already. And I noticed no one had. And then as soon as he got to me, he was a smash play.
Yeah.
And this is where I had the thoughts. I'm like, I said to you guys, this is where I normally take quarterback. And Tom Brady was sitting there. It was between him and DeAndre Hopkins. I was sitting there going, is this where I go, you know what, my third receiver, do I wait on a guy like Hopkins and just like play the waiting game and hopefully I've got a decent record after 6 games and really sort of take a shot late, or do I just take the safety of Brady as my quarterback because I know there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks go behind me here? And, I sort of sat there for a bit and I went, you know what? My whole game plan was to take a quarterback here. I'm just happy that Tom Brady was here. No one took him earlier than me, and I was just happy to take him there because I just like the look of my team when Tom Brady's at the top there. I just think it's very secure.
Stay the course, mate. Stay the course.
Yeah, that's 100% what I would have done in that situation as well.
Too much at stake, mate. This is not some Kelly Cup. It's the Astro League.
Well, the way is
take your risks in the Kelly Cup, mate.
In a 16-team league, I think you need the depth early. Like, I think you need those spots. And I just thought it's like not like we have an 8 or 9 team bench, like a player bench. Sorry, we've got four guys there, and they kind of all need to be ready to play. So I decided to go Brady. I was really, really happy with my next round too, because I was kind of at that point thinking I was going to wait on tight end. But I've talked up that I really like Cole Kmet. Obviously, Matty sort of talked about that he's not really that keen on him, but I just see him as that really stable tight end this year. And the people have talked about like who's going to be the next like Cooper Kupp and things like that. And I was trying to work out like who do I think the next Dalton Schultz is going to be from last year. Like Dalton Schultz is sitting there, and honestly, the funny thing is you laugh. Like,
That's a sentence, though. Have you? Did you hear yourself say that out? Who's going to be the next
exactly,
Dalton Schultz?
Exactly. And where did Dalton Schultz finish last year? What, tight end 4, tight end 3?
Yeah.
Exactly. And he actually made a difference with just being plain Jane and actually just being, there and just getting a lot of receptions and being in the right situation at the right time. And I actually think Cole Kmet is that perfect guy this year. I could honestly see him being a top 5 tight end. And I'm not saying he's going to blow the lid off the league, but as a 7th/8th round pick in the tight end position, like I got everyone I needed in the spots I needed to. I felt like he was a perfect pick there. And then I was able to then go get Christian Kirk, who I've talked up. I actually think he's a great pick there. Like, I honestly think I saw him get 11 targets in a preseason game. I just think he's going to get hyper targeted by a potential breakout of Trevor Lawrence, and I'm getting in on a real value there if Trevor Lawrence does break out. And if he doesn't, and the Jags struggle, then it's like, okay, he's my bench wide receiver. Like, what's the worst that could honestly happen there?
He's your break glass in case of emergency guy because you've got Kareem Hunt as your flex.
Yeah. Exactly. So I just felt like that was a really good spot there. And then we then got to the 9th and 10th, where this is where the two leagues really met.
What happened?
My two leagues, where I had the laptop sitting in front of me, and my pick was coming up on the phone, and I was so interested in who was going to go before me on the turn there that I then looked down at my screen, and it was red, saying I had 6 seconds to go with my picks, and I freaked out and I went straight to wide receiver because honestly I thought that if that's probably the spot to find someone, and then I didn't like anyone, and then I quickly went to running back to look at Darrell Henderson, and then I went to pick him, and it picked me Russell Gage and Rams defense as the next 2 picks somehow. So I was pretty rattled by that, but I was like, you know what? I'm not too pissed off about it. I would have definitely gone Henderson because I just think, him and Akers are probably going to split the work, and the fact that you can get one of them in the 9th and you've got to pick the other one in the 2nd, I feel like it's a pretty big discount on him. That's the only reason I thought he was a good running back depth piece. But in the end, it is looking at one league and not looking at the other, and it is what it is. And I've gone and, like I said earlier, I've gone and traded Russell Gage and dropped the Rams D anyway. So, like, that's another thing, right, is that, a draft is great, right? Like nailing the draft is good, but if you don't win your league in the draft, like you really win it later.
It's not a finish line.
I just wanted guys that I was happy with. I would have definitely gone different than Gage and Rams defense there if I had had my picks. But in the end, they're pieces that I can try and move and either drop or just keep there. It doesn't really matter. So I wasn't too rattled by that. And then I was sort of happy with my pieces. I was actually really happy to get Michael Gallup really late in the draft. Like,
he was someone we looked at really late in mocks.
We really liked it. Yeah, we really liked him.
Having an IR spot makes it easier. And the fact is there was news sort of break that he's not getting put on the pup. So he's not going to miss. Well, he may miss 4 games.
Might miss a game or 2,
He's not guaranteed to miss the 4 games if he was put on the pup. So there's a chance he might come in back in week 2, week 3. I think he's going to take a little bit of time coming off an ACL, but I just think that's a decent pick there. It's someone I can sit on the IR for a little bit and, and just have there on my bench. And again, if Christian Kirk's my break glass, then I don't know what Gallup's even further down that list for me. So he's a decent piece.
But if there's a world where, Gallup could end up with more fantasy points this year than Kirk, and you got him in the 11th round,
100%.
And he might play less games, and he still might wind up with more fantasy points than Kirk. It's just a delicious pick. Delicious. Yeah. I couldn't see another bite.
Gallup could even be that wide receiver 1 Dallas offense if CD wasn't there. He has wide receiver 1 potential.
Yeah, he's got some chops.
He's sort of the reason why people like Dalton Schultz again, is that they just assume Schultz is going to be that receiver 2. But if Gallup comes back earlier than they think, I think he's going to soak up a lot of those targets. And I just think, you look at pedigree in that receiving core, it has to be CD and it has to be Gallup, once he's back. Yeah. So, and for a team to pass is a lot, I just think it's a very good late pick, especially in an Astro League 16-team draft. So
Yeah.
I was pretty happy with how that turned out. I've now then, me being me, gone on and made a trade with Seahorse, and I've now got top 10 wide receiver Mike Evans in my team.
Yeah. My boy,
Delicious.
top 10 wide. Man, I love how all of you, just as a aside, I love how all of you are on board with me putting Mike Evans in my top 10 NFL wide receivers of 2021 over CeeDee Lamb. Like, just the whole league and shit. Like, the whole podcast has to just take that entire line from me. And
Yeah.
it's just great.
That's his name now. His name
I'm-
isn't
It is.
Mike Evans. It's top 10
I
wide
don't know who
receiver
else it
is his
is.
first name, and Mike Evans is his
I
last
mean,
name.
he deserves the top 10. That's what I'm saying. Like, I can go full rant job for a whole hour talking about how Mike Evans' top 10 talent is still there. He's always like first or second in touchdowns. He's a red zone monster. He's always in the top 10 in yards. And everyone just shits on him. They just don't think highly of
Yeah.
him.
He's
He's got to be top
underappreciated.
10 every single year. I know he has Brady as his quarterback, but he was still doing the shit with Winston.
Yeah.
Even with like Fitzpatrick back in the day. Who did it have? Like, was it Freeman in his rookie season?
Josh
Like,
Freeman.
he was still doing that shit with Josh Freeman. Like,
Josh
come
Freeman.
on, man.
What's he got like
Yeah.
7 straight 1,000-yard seasons? or
Yeah,
something?
he's
Yeah.
to start his career. He's had an 1,000-yard year every single year.
Every single one.
And I've got Brady as my quarterback, which sort of made it even
It's
more
just
enticing to go
Yeah.
get Mike Evans because I got the
Stack
stack
that
now.
bitch up, in the words of Brendan.
Hey,
Stack
stack
that
it up.
bitch up.
Look, I just gotta say, Seahorse, why, man?
Yeah.
You had to just give him a top 10 wide receiver, Mike
But
Evans.
thanks for nothing, Seahorse. I mean, you got
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks, like bravo, but fuck, mate.
Yeah.
The problem I had too was because obviously Gage wasn't someone I actually picked up. I was more keen on him early in the year. He's not even a guarantee
Yeah.
to play week one.
And before
Sort of
Julio
been
as
struggling.
well.
Yeah, that obviously sort of threw some water on that fire, but it is what it is. Watch Gage come out in week one. I'm playing Seahorse in week one too, so watch him torch me. Me and Seahorse had the same thing 2 years ago where we did a trade like literally pretty much the day after draft day. And we played each other week one. He torched me by like 40.
Yeah,
but then
he
that was
lit
the
you
year
up.
Seahorse actually dominated. Like he had the 1 seed, I
Yeah,
think,
the
didn't he?
1 seed.
Yeah.
And then last year he went straight to the outhouse. It was amazing. I've never seen that happen. 1 seed to the end. Gone.
I will say though, like that year, he was so adamant about having wide receivers, and that's pretty much the way he's built his team this year. So, you never know. Like he seems to have a way with just like he wants his team to be set up as basically receiver heavy and not really relying on running backs. And
there is
good on him.
famous
Let's
4
see what
words.
happens.
Running backs are overrated. There is
Yep.
famous 4 words. And he'll live and die by it. And last year he died by it. And the year before he lived by it. So.
I definitely had a look at his running backs after the draft because I was like, all right, there's always an opportunity to sort of trade for a decent running back with Seahorse if he gets auto picked or something. But I looked at it and went, he's just ended up with the perfect team for him. Like that's actually one of the things I said to him because I was having a chat with him on the side more about his work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
He's
then
building an empire, that guy.
And I said to him, I go, mate, I was gonna like offer you something here, but you somehow ended up like with the perfect draft for you personally. Like you've just ended up with a bunch of receivers and just sort of ended up with basically a 0 running back strategy, and that's how he loves it.
Just for those playing at home, his running backs are Cam Akers and Isaiah Pacheco. So
Exactly.
that's in a league this deep, 16 teams. They're his entire running back room. Two guys.
Yeah.
So, but he's got 7 wide receivers, so he's feeling pretty good.
Oh, he'll gladly trot out like the backup to the backup and like 2 different teams at running back, and he'll just run quarterback with 3 receivers, 1 in the flex and 2 in the spots, and he'll be stoked with it.
Oh, totally. Have a look at his receivers. He's got Hollywood Brown, Jamar Chase, Brandon Cooks. He's got Jahan Dotson as well, which I think is an interesting pickup. Of course, Russell Gage, who could be anything. Valdez Scantling, and then Christian Watson, who can be anything. If nothing else, he's setting himself up as someone who could be interesting to talk trades with later in the year as well. So
I was going to put something out.
Worked out for him.
I was going to put something out for discussion. Do you guys have a team you think like you would almost say is like an early favorite, or just someone like you just really intrigued by their team?
Man,
I know
we
we didn't prepare this. I know.
Oh yeah, this is This is difficult. I
Can
mean,
I start it?
Can-
Because I think
yeah.
I was
It's-
going to say I could because I'm the one asking
you go.
questions.
Yeah, you go.
Makes it a bit easier for you guys.
Gives me a
I
bit of second.
like Kenny. I'm
Yeah.
on Kenny's team. I obviously CMC early, like this sort of speaks for itself. But obviously getting Lamar as his quarterback, but then Sauce, like Damian Harris to me, I wasn't really like keen on him this year, but as a running back too, like I actually think that's a good spot for him. Like I still think he's going to be consistent, and I don't think Ramondre's this whole year is going to fully take over him. I think it's going to be, more of a split. And then the fact that no one was clamoring over Ty Montgomery, but the fact he got injured, it still leaves a third down role, obviously without James White there as well. So I think there's a decent chance that, like between Harris and Ramondre, they could split that entire 3-down workload. And Damian Harris is a very good runner between the 20s. Like he's actually a very, very good running back. So I actually think that's a really good spot for him. He goes and gets Keenan Allen as his wide receiver one. I've talked up.
I love him.
I really enjoy myself a bit of Keenan Allen. I might be talking to you, Kenny, a little bit further down the road. Trying to get that one team. But I won't talk too much about that now. Kyle Pitts, obviously, like I spoke earlier in the preseason about the range of outcomes I think on Kyle Pitts. Like it would scare the shit out of me playing against him. Put it that way. Each week, even though he's got Marcus
It's a powder
Mariota,
keg. Yeah.
I'd still be worried that he's just going to break out. This is going to be his week where he scores 25 points because he's basically a wide receiver playing tight end. He is just an absolute
Jimmy Graham. He's Jimmy Graham.
Mammoth of a human. And then the thing was, I initially thought, I wasn't really that sure on Garrett Wilson being his wide receiver too. But then he's actually got Chris Godwin sitting there on his bench who looks like he's probably going to be there week one. I don't think it's going to be full Chris Godwin workload, but I think it's only going to be better as the year goes on for Kenny's team, having Godwin there. And you got a guy like Drake London sitting there who, God knows what you get out of him. He could be anything this year. I know he's a rookie, but I just think down the road, his team's only going to get better as the year goes on. And to be honest, that's normally what the issue with Kenny's teams are. They normally fall apart later in the year, whereas I think this team could actually get better. So yeah, I just saw Kenny's team as not a bad draft.
I have a tough time splitting two teams because I think they've got a lot of things that I like, but each of them has kind of this fatal flaw, which 16 teams, there's going to be fatal flaws.
Yeah.
But can I tell you the two I'm finding hard to separate? And I won't spend a lot of time talking about them both because I think it probably their credential also kind of stands up for why. But I like Marky Mark's team. He's our 2019 champion. He's got, obviously, Derrick Henry and Elijah Mitchell as his starting running backs, but he's also gone and taken Isaiah Spiller and Captain Cook. We'll be talking later, Marky Mark. So his running back room's pretty solid. His fifth guy is Raheem Mostert. So, I mean, the guy's just, he's got options. But I like his receivers. Judy, Pittman, and Devonta Smith will be his starters with, he got Jameson Williams and George Pickens as young guys. So this is that young guy thing I was talking about before. But where he falls apart is I don't love Burrow and I don't love Albert O as his supports for quarterback and tight end. I think if you're going to be that strong there, you're probably taking a risk at those other positions. But for me as well, I think you'll find a tight end. You don't have to be married to Albert O. And I think Joe Burrow has been hugely overrated in the fantasy world. I think he'll be a terrific NFL quarterback, but that's not scoring fantasy points. It's a different thing. And I think that Mac Jones will win football games as well. I'm not saying that those two are the same player, but I'm just saying that wins on the football field don't necessarily translate into fantasy. Where the other guy I had to split this with has, Taylor's husband, Justin Herbert. This is Brendox's team. He has Saquon Barkley, who I love through the offseason. Kamara and Ingram, that's a smart move. He's got James Robinson, who Taylor's talked up as a big value opportunity. And then where I think he falls over is that his receivers, he's got Michael Thomas, who's all question marks, and DJ Moore. Oh, man, I think that's a tough spot to be in. And then your flex play as a receiver is Rashad Bateman. I just kind of feel like receivers his Achilles heel a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind. I like his team too. I thought he had a good draft. Very Saints heavy.
Yeah, because he got Olave in there as well, yeah. So he's got 4 Saints.
But I think Saints are like just waiting for positive regression this year. Like I just think I've talked about how ridiculously big of an upgrade the receiving core is for Jameis this year. Well, I know, he doesn't have Jameis, so that was specific talking about that. But I just think Jameis is in for a great year, and if he's got a bunch of people around that offense, I think it's only going to help Brendox. And you just got to look at Brendox's record in the bloody Astro League. You're never going to rule him out, are you?
Ever. The guy has made 7 grand finals. In fact, he's never made the playoffs without making the grand final.
Which is insane.
Ridiculous.
That's just like the Niners since I became a fan. We've never made the playoffs without making the NFC Championship game at least. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, the Astro final is bigger than the NFC Championship game, mate. This is actually for something important.
What the hell is the go with the projections on NFL.com right now?
Yeah, they're absolutely
drunk at the wheel.
I'm declaring that I win the draft, and then they give me like a B+. Like, come on, man.
Someone's had about 100 craft beers in one day and just done the done the projections.
100%. But hey, Manjo, whose team did you like, just quickly? Because this is important to me. You're kind of coming in with an untainted eye. Like Taylor and I know these guys for years and years. You're coming in you've had a very little experience with a lot of the guys, and now you see their teams and you're coming with your own analysis. I'd love to see who you think has a team you wouldn't mind swapping names with.
Honestly, okay, I think the team that I'm least keen on, and I know he was very excited to listen to the podcast, but Adam, I'm a bit unsure about him. He took so many calls. I know we always love to shit on Adam on this podcast. I'll just pile on. I'll just pile on. Look, I'm really unsure. I know he's gone out and trade for Cooper Kupp, so that's pretty much made it. But if you have a team of Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor, that's actually pretty good. I'm going to give him some credit
I'm
for
finding it hard to poke holes in him for that reason, man.
Yeah, that's a very top heavy lineup, and he's got boom or bust Mike Williams, and then he's got 4 Cardinals. He's got Kyler Murray, Zach Ertz, Rondale Moore, and Hopkins. Actually, all of his starters, except for his running backs, Tony Pollard and Jonathan Taylor, they actually come from one of the West divisions. So he's full on Western. We can call him. I didn't know Queensland was on the West Coast. Like, I don't even know where the hell Queensland is now.
If you were born in Perth, you'd play Origin for Queensland. That's how it works.
Yeah, that's 100% right. Mate, the whole eligibility system has changed. I think after COVID, both Western Australia and Queensland had like the hardest border lockdowns. So they pretty much were the same. They could be connected by the freaking Northern Territory. Merge those 3. That's your Western team. And I guess, he should be renamed to the West Queensland football team. He's just absolutely
might break in and rename him here.
He's gone out to also have 2 Niners running backs in Tyron Davis-Price and Jeff Wilson Jr. My boy, Jeff Wilson Jr. Yeah, and Hopkins on his bench. So there's only 4 players: Romeo Dobbs, Alec Pierce, and of course, Tony Pollard and Jonathan Taylor. So he's literally has 4 players on his entire team who aren't in the West Division.
Out of 13.
So he's a full-on. So Adam, I'd say he has the most interesting team, and I'm just really unsure because 4 Cardinals seems a little heavy. I mean, I really like Hopkins just waiting there for a few rounds, but like a few weeks, like 6 weeks, he's out. So I'm excited by that. But
it'll be interesting to see what happens there, because that's a long time for him to be sitting on a roster.
Yeah,
it might be something that he can dangle in front of somebody, or he can dangle something else in front of somebody and know that he's got Hopkins just there to slide on in.
Yeah, I'm just really wondering because I'm really unsure about Adam. I'm unsure about his sort of team here. So I know he's probably listening. He's probably like, Madra, you're just like Taylor and Maddie hating on me as usual. But honestly,
Mate, I think that means we've brought you up well. I think that's what it's saying.
To be fair, we normally wait till we watch his team come out like a piece of shit peacock, and ran over by a couple of buses, and then we give him shit.
Then we give him shit. We wait for the results to speak.
We let the results speak.
Look, I do love Brendan's team. As you guys said, 4 Saints heavy, but it's just the wide receivers I'm a little less high on. But if Saquon breaks out, oh man, we're in for a long one. Where I
Yeah.
think that's an 8th grand final for Brendan. If Saquon is
Could
just
be.
absolutely a god in fantasy, I can't see Brendan miss the grand final. I'm gonna put that one out there. Brendan is still a guy I'm very scared of. I still like looking at the
I'm
roster.
terrified of the guy. I've been terrified of the guy for 12 years.
I've been terrified of him 12 months ever
I'm
since I
not. I
started.
beat him in a grand final.
Yeah.
He's easy beat.
You brushed him aside. Yeah, my first grand final, I beat him. But I mean, God, do you know how many shit sandwiches I had to eat before I got him that day? And my team was actually good. Oh my God. Yeah, I have PTSD from the other 11 years around it.
Yeah, it's just so hard to win in this league. Like I've just been looking
Oh.
at the rosters casually, and it's just my
Yeah,
gosh.
that depth chart page, I look at that twice a day. I look
Yeah,
down
it's
the
just-
whole league in the morning. I look down the whole league again at night, and I'm always scanning it, thinking who's changed what, who's
I did
available,
look at that depth
who
chart
do I
page.
trade with, who could I remember to offer something to at a certain time. I'm always doing that.
Yeah. Another team that I'm not super duper keen on is the
The Western
Jizz
Wankers.
I don't know about the Jizz Pods. I think they were auto drafting or something. So
Yes.
might have to give them a pass there though. But
I assume a few were with how
Yeah, there's a
early
couple.
like defenses and kickers started going.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I know Pete
always a
was
couple.
auto. I know Pete was auto. He was
Which
doing
is-
a preseason game.
I can't talk shit because I ended up getting drafted
Yeah.
in 2 rounds.
Look,
but
Yeah, anyone
I
who
did the
auto
rest of it.
drafted, if I talk shit to you, I'm very sorry. You guys deserve a lot better. And yeah, I'm really excited for this season. I'm still thinking we won the draft, Maddie. I just something just tells me it was just a special aura, just getting all of our targets and everything. I know there's a few teams that auto drafted, so it made it a little easier for us. But look, I'm very
Well-
confident that we did win the draft. That doesn't mean I'm gonna say outright we're favorites. I'm gonna put that favorites tag on the grand finalists, Taylor and Brendan. I'm gonna put them above
I think
us.
it's the right spot to put it right now.
I'm honestly gonna put them above us because I think they know what they're doing. I know I probably made a mistake, probably trusting Elijah and Ayuk. One of them's gonna flop, isn't it? Just one of them is just not gonna do well, and I feel
with
like
the
it's
way
gonna
you
be-
drafted, you don't need them both to hit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I like where you drafted them and how the way you set your team because you can sort of rely on your 3 running backs you've got there and one of them playing in your flex. And, like, if you had gone, say, Ayuk and Elijah and you'd only taken like 1, maybe 2 early running backs, I'd be like, all right, maybe, you got to have to rely on those wide receivers a bit more. But I wouldn't be too worried about it because you set yourself up with good running back depth, which is massive in this league. And so, like, with guys like Elijah, the Jets might have a few off games where Elijah isn't, on. But if you can get like one boom game out of either of them and then one struggles, you're getting 20 points out of your 2 receivers. That's easily enough. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be so
all you
worried
need.
because of where you drafted them. Like, if you drafted them early, you'd be really relying on them. But the way you set your team out, I don't think you need to.
And ETN is essentially a flex in real life. That's how they're gonna play them, isn't it, Maddie? Like
Well,
that's
I think early on he's going to see more volume than you think, but
for sure.
I know that Robinson isn't nothing. I just don't think he's as much as everyone's making it out like he's going to be because he's inherited from 2,
You're also
2
playing the
administrations
odds.
ago.
You're playing the odds on a torn Achilles too. Like,
Yeah.
how many people have you seen come back well from a torn Achilles,
Yeah.
especially year 1?
Very few, but I mean, it's not that it's not possible.
No, you're
I
playing
mean,
the odds.
yeah,
all not
you've got
scary.
2 guys with lower leg injuries as your room of people, but one of them's like one of them's got a lot invested in whether they're going to be successful or not. And the other is a hand me down from 2 administrations ago who was an undrafted free agent who's cost you nothing so far. But I don't know necessarily that he would find himself with a role like he's had or a role that he might even get now on any other roster. I don't even know that that's true. So,
And to be honest, this is kind of a reason why I'm more in on Javonte than I was before. Like, how many backs are really more than like 70% of the workload these days anyway? Like most teams are trying to go for at least a little bit more of a committee these days anyway. So like when I started looking at more with the Javonte Gordon split, like I honestly think that they only brought Gordon back because it was like no one else wanted him, and they were just like, well, let's just bring this guy back for another 1 year deal. Like I just think that's going to be more like a 70-30 instead of a 50-50. And there aren't really that many running backs out there getting more than 70% of the workload anyway. So I just
shits
don't
me about
think
Melvin Gordon's
like
30 though. Is it'll be the fucking 2 touchdowns. You know
it will.
Oh, you
And
fucker.
it will, but like you just got to take Javonte's pedigree and just go, you know what, this guy could absolutely dominate. With, like he breaks that many tackles. He's
gonna have
just
to do the Booby Miller and run him in from outside the 20.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just how I feel about with ETN. Like even if Robinson comes in and gets 30 to 35% of the workload, if that team's a bit better on offense this year, I just think that Robinson playing 30% of the snaps isn't really that relevant. Like I just think ETN's going to, be a very good player. So, I just think sometimes people get too freaked out by a backup when in the end, like most teams have got someone there anyway. Like I'm taking DeAndre Swift. I'm all over DeAndre Swift. I don't think he gets more than 70% of the work. Like he's never. Honestly, I don't want him to
kill him.
I don't want him to get more than that. I would rather him sort of take 70%, and then
60,
be there
40 with the goal line and some catching. You'd be like, that's return on investment.
With what kind of pedigree, with the guy, the runner he is, and the pass catcher he is, that's all I need. Like if anything,
how much they're going to trail.
If you're going more than that, then you're actually just starting to take the odds of he's going to get injured because he's just going to be used too much. So. In the end, I just think people worry about stuff too much.
Yeah, his fragility has definitely shown up. Wow. That is about as comprehensive a wrap as you can get on the Astros draft. I'm really glad that we made time to do that here too, because it's not going to be interesting to everybody in the universe. But, we're in a pretty unique league that is 16 Aussie teams, all run locally, very engaged. Even the guys who are auto drafting, a lot of them have got pre-draft rankings in, and the teams are generally pretty competitive. And I don't know that I think it's difficult to see a league this big be as engaged and as interesting as it is, considering that we're all foreigners as well. We didn't grow up with this sport the way that you do when you come from its homeland. So I think that there's a lot to be said about the way this league just plays hard.
Is Adam the newest entrant into the league?
He had been, until
I count.
But in terms of the teams, like how
Adam
long
and
ago
Seahorse came in the same year.
How long ago was that?
2016 was it?
They were 2018 because Seahorse made the grand final on debut.
Because I was saying to my brother as I was doing the draft when we were down there, I was like, "You seriously, someone has to die to actually get in this league." Like, it's crazy. Like, no one every year, everyone's just as keen as they are every other year. Like, it just doesn't seem like there's that much movement in this league, which is amazing for a 16-team league. Like, we had to find a new person just for the Kelly Cup in a 12-team league. Like, it feels like nearly every year there's like someone bowing out, just doesn't want to do it this year or whatever. But
in fact, next year, sign me up, mate. I'm in.
yeah, well, definitely. Like, but I mean, this Astro League, just no one even blinks. Like everyone's always in the next year. Like it's just such a league that everyone enjoys so much.
Yeah, guys will go 3-11 and just be like, "I'm back. Yeah. No, it just wasn't my year. I'm back.
Because it's just something. It's so hard to win. It's like I can speak for it. Like once you get there, it's such an amazing feeling because such a hard league to win, and 4 bench spots, 16-team league. Like it's so hard to just dissect everything and get through all the injuries and get through all the hardships that come your way. Like it's an amazing league to win. But like people playing league, I've even said to you like. I put it over leagues that I put money into. Like I would rather win this league than leagues that I actually get monetary value out of because it just means more.
Oh yeah, because money doesn't matter, mate. This is ego.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mate, I'm actually thinking 10-team and 12-team is easy as hell after doing this draft.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Don't you love your 10-team rosters now, man, John?
It's only going to get worse, man, John. It's only going to get worse.
I need a half the teams. I need to go back.
Wait till you start looking at the waiver wire in week 7 in this league, mate.
I need to go back to doing random 8-team drafts on ESPN again. My 2018 days. I need to go back to that.
Man shot. That's so cute.
Yeah, me when I was in high school, just doing
Doing
those
little
18.
18 drafts. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so sweet.
That's how you end high school. Just do 18
Just-
ESPN fantasy drafts.
Just win the league, mate, and do the Champions League next year. It's 6 teams.
Yeah.
It's a bit easier.
Easy.
6 teams, 12 starters. It's a league of its own.
Yeah.
Wow. All right,
Hopefully I
fellas,
can
that has
play off.
been the definitive guide to your Astro League draft. I reckon we take a quick break and we come back with some deep sleepers.
And he starts going like he goes absolutely mental and then like nearly explodes.
Like the game show version of playing Nick Kyrgios, eh?
Ozzy,
So just to clarify, one team scores more points and they both lost to the Jets. So you take the team that scores more points.
Yes.
NFL.
You guys made me really thirsty with all those like trophy picks. Like
The trophy is making me thirsty.
fantasy.
Who won starts the week, Roy?
Let's not talk about it.
Okay, fair enough. On to the next one.
this is what 20 years of being a Jacksonville Jaguars fan does to a man, I reckon.
I feel like this was so much easier when I wrote it down. You guys are making this sound so hard.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
But it was in the Brady era. Yeah.
Everything's in the
yeah.
Brady era, mate.